Hello, everybody, and welcome to ReelQuick, episode 31. We are absolutely in shambles because we're also very tired, but mostly Tyler. So I'm not sure how much energy will be happening here. You might hear my kid lose his mind as he's sitting right in front of me, but all good things. We're just gonna go through the motions and get through this thing. But we are reviewing Apocalypto today. This is a Patreon sponsored review from our main man, Remy. Shout out him for the suggestion. It's a movie I don't think any of us had seen before, right? I think we're all new watchers of it. I'm interested to hear thoughts because, normally we'll chat before probably and give a little like, oh, I like that or I didn't like that, in the group chat. Today, I don't think we talked a single bit about this after watching. So I'm interested to see what everyone thinks. Won't be too long of a review. We'll chat a little bit, go through some stuff that we liked, that we didn't like. But Tyler, just to wake you up, I'll let you start.
Yeah, so I watched this last night with my friend. I enjoyed it. So
about where do you think are you sitting?
So I feel like, yeah, in terms of where I'm sitting, it's probably like a 3.5 out of 5. So the thing for me is this: I expected this to be pretty different than it ended up being. Like based on just like the quick, because like I legitimately just like I haven't heard people talk about this movie. I haven't heard any discourse around it, so I really had no clue what to expect into it. Genuinely, when you recommended it, I had no clue what it was, what it would be about. But it was Mel Gibson. I don't think he makes like the greatest movies in the world, but they're usually pretty action packed and usually pretty. Like I feel like he does like war and battle pretty well because he does like Hacksaw Ridge and he kind of nails that genre. So for this, based on just like the 2-sentence synopsis I read going into it and knowing it's a Mel Gibson film about like Mayan civilizations, and I just expected just like an all-out war between two tribes in this. Whereas like I feel like you didn't really get that. It started off a lot slower than I expected, and it's more about like almost like a revenge story because this other tribe comes in and just absolutely pillages this other tribe and very, very disturbing and gruesome scenes. Yeah. And then from there on, it's about just trying to survive, trying to escape, and trying to get revenge. Whereas I more expected this to be just like kind of like just like a war epic, basically, just because of Mel Gibson. So it was different than I was expecting, and the beginning of it was a lot slower than I expected going into it. But ultimately, it ended up being a pretty brutal movie, a pretty savage movie, and I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm like super high on it, but so that's why I'm like 3.5 out of 5. But I thought, like for 2006, I thought this looked really, really good. Like not like 2006 was that long ago, but I thought it looked visually really good. I really enjoyed the landscape. I think just like this time setting is so cool. There's so much you can do with it, with like the makeup, hairstyling, the design of these characters, the jungle setting, all these ancient weaponry. So I for me personally, I think the setting was super sweet. But yeah, that's pretty much kind of where my overall thoughts kind of land on it. It wasn't as intense and like action in terms of action packs as I thought it would be, but I ended up enjoying it. But not my favorite thing in the world. But I thought it was fun to watch and fun to look at.
Yeah, I also, just real quick, I've seen a ton of like, reviews that are like half star. Mel Gibson just wanted to kill a bunch of like Mayan people, and that's why he made this movie. And Mel Gibson, not a great guy. No one's going to argue that, but we're not going to get into any of that. Like, just a ton of reviews are like that, and so I just. If you're watching this and you're mad that we didn't touch on anything like that, and this is probably a wildly historically inaccurate movie, sure, we're not going to touch on any of that. So I just want to say that real quick. So if that's what you're looking for, this isn't it. But George, what are your general thoughts of the movie?
I'm like right there with Tyler. I fully judge this movie based on its poster because I think that poster is sick, and I think just going.
It is a good poster because I was gonna change mine. I was gonna change mine on Letterboxd, but that poster's too damn good.
That's the best one.
I agree.
But like looking at that poster, having absolutely no idea what this movie is or what it was about, I was fully expecting like a classic Mel Gibson war epic, and I don't think I got that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Tyler said, it provided me with the brutality that I expected. It started off a bit slow, but once things got going, and it ended up being a survival of wits. I really enjoyed the landscape. I think that provided well to the story, and obviously all the costume and production designs were really solid. It got nominated. I was looking at for visual effects, costume design, and hair and makeup. So not seeing a production design nomination was a bit surprising. But yeah, I thought it was good. I'm not over the moon about it, and I do think that's just because I went in with weird expectations on what to expect, again, just based on that poster. But I enjoyed my time with it. I liked the brutality of it. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm not like over the moon about it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this sucks because I think I'm right with you guys. I gave it a 67 out of 100 or a 3.5 out of 5. So we're all right there. And I think as we just like talk and grow, we just kind of blend into one brain apparently. But because I thought if we didn't talk about it at all, maybe we'd get some wildly different takes. But I'm kind of with you. I watched this in 2 parts. I watched the first hour yesterday and the last hour and a half today, and that's mostly because I was quite bored through the first hour. It starts real slow in my opinion, and I was like, I am not in the mindset to watch this right now. I don't necessarily care what's going on. But then the last hour and a half, I would say, really picks up. It gets a hell of a lot more interesting once we enter that Mayan city. It definitely picked up, and I really, really enjoyed the back hour and a half, I would say. So that's kind of my general outline for giving it a 3.5. I was, a little bit under a halfway point. I was like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this. I really like like you said, the set design. They were I forget where this is filmed, but it's practical. Like they were in the they were outside for most of this filming. It's obviously not sitting behind a green screen, which is nice in today's world to see that. There were a couple so I don't know if this is a spoiler. It's really not. There's a jaguar in this movie. I thought that looked like shit. I thought it looked like a fucking which it's no one's fault, but I thought it looked like
that looked so bad. Like the scene where they're all like jumping off the waterfall, like it looks so bad.
Yeah, the only one I truly noticed is I thought the jaguar looked like a stuffed animal. when it was in the tree and all you saw was it hissing at Jaguar Paul. But I should probably at least read the synopsis for Apocalypto because I have not yet. And if you haven't watched it and you just want to listen to this review, that's more than welcome. But this is about the Mayan kingdom is at its height of its opulence and power, but the foundations of the empire are beginning to crumble. The leaders believe they must build more temples and sacrifice more people or their crops, and citizens will die. Jaguar Paw, played by Rudy Youngblood, a peaceful hunter in a remote tribe, is captured along with its entire village in a raid. He is scheduled for a ritual sacrifice until he makes a daring escape and tries to make it back to his pregnant wife and son. So after that, I think we're all sitting at a 3.5. Tyler, do you know your score out of 10?
No, I haven't sat down and looked at my spreadsheet yet to know exactly where to put it. Do you have
that's
your score
fine.
100?
Yeah, so I gave it a 67 out of 100.
Yeah,
I think it's a good movie. I do. I had issues with the first hour, and that's kind of where most of my points would drop off, I'd say.
Yeah. Did you guys? Sorry, one thing that kind of threw me off, like especially that first raid scene. Like it was supposed to be serious, supposed to come off like brutal, which I think it really did. But then every so often, Mel Gibson throws in like these weird 1 second slow-mos or these very interesting camera angles, and it kind of makes the scene it goes from brutal to corny really, really fast. And he did that several times throughout the movie. Even the scene on top of the pyramid where they're about to fucking obviously stab the shit out of dude. And then there's this one weird camera angle where it really quickly speeds into Jaguar Paw's face or whatever his name was. And I'm like, this just took a really brutal scene and it just kind of made it feel so corny. And I don't know, that he did that throughout the entire movie, and it kept throwing me off because I never knew if this movie wanted to take itself seriously or if this was just Mel Gibson experimenting with different camera shots.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. There's a lot of interesting shot selection in this movie and interesting direction choices. Because So for me, like Cam said, and this is like super early in the morning, so like these talking about it, and I was bringing up more thoughts from watching it last night. But I was watching it late last night, pretty tired, and it definitely starts out with like the very first camera shot of the movie is, an interesting choice that I feel like it was just overly long. It was basically just panning into like the bushes of the jungle for like a 3-4 minute like just panning with a couple people running by and stuff. But there was a lot of different things like that where like a shot would be like a really weird quick shot, or he would just have a shot that would linger super long. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I expect this to be like a more large scale war battle epic. And the reason I'm like lower on this movie, like a 3.5 out of 5, and like didn't love it, isn't because I didn't get that. That's just that's like a separate thought. Like I expected that going into it, and it didn't end up being that. But the reason I have it being like a 3.5 out of 5 is like Cam said, I was quite bored for the first like hour and a half. There's a couple brutal scenes in there, especially when the city first, or the other tribe first arrives. But yeah, for the majority of the first hour and a half, you have them just sitting in the jungle, like hunting that boar or whatever the animal was, and just kind of joking with the guy, making him eat testicles, and they're like, aha, you're so gullible. And then they just keep rubbing that in by like a whole other scene of him like rubbing some like flour on his gonads and then trying to have sex with his wife, and then that like makes his nuts burn, and then he's like running around the village and everyone's like, ha ha ha, you're so gullible and stupid. And it's like, man, this is just going on for a long time. I get it, this dude's like the idiot of the tribe. Like, you just showed me that with the whole boar scene and him eating testicles, and you just went right into another scene to be like, hey, remember, this guy's really stupid.
Did that guy even come back at any point? Like,
not after like halfway through.
Yeah, I don't know the point of showing that he's the idiot of the tribe so much. I agree with that. It was a little.
But again, that goes back. That's like, it's like one of those things. Just Mel Gibson is doing that. Just like takes his like what I assume he wants to be a very serious epic movie and just turns it into like this corn fest.
Right.
And yeah, I don't necessarily like. I didn't necessarily get corny when I was watching. I didn't think it was too corny, but I didn't think it was like the greatest thing ever. And I was like, oh, why do we keep going slow-mo? Like you said, that always, slow-mo always pisses me off, even if.
But it was just like scenes. Random shots of like
yeah.
One shot was just like two people in the corner of the screen just walking away, looking back, and it was like just planted in the middle of like an actual scene. And I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But we can get into spoilers. There's not like a ton of spoilers for this movie. It's a revenge story almost of a man trying to get back to his wife and son. So it's basically this Jaguar Paw is the main character. He is captured by the Mayan people, and they take him and a bunch of other people from his tribe to their city, where they're basically trying to. You see a lot of dead cornfields and a lot of dead villages that they've pillaged, and they're basically their answer for this plague that's going on is sacrifice more people. The gods are mad at us. We have to sacrifice and sacrifice and sacrifice. So casual, just things we do today still. But yeah, it definitely was a even though it wasn't a war epic, I would say this movie was very brutal. I looked it up or I saw that there's like 114 like on-screen deaths or the kill count in this movie is 114. That's absurd. Yeah, so it was a very brutal movie. Do you guys have any like spoiler thoughts that you want to get into a little bit?
There's one thing about this movie that like bothered me was the first raid when Jaguar Paw and his dad were sitting there, and Jaguar Paw is about to die, and this other guy's like, no, don't kill him, I want him alive. And then right in front of this dude who just wanted to kill you, you say like dad to your dad. And once he said that, I was like, all right, dad's dead as fuck. So it was like, I hated that. It was the most predictable thing in the world in that one moment. I was like, you could not have done that. So that's when like he gets the nickname, Jaguar Paw gets the nickname of Almost. Yeah.
And the fun fact about that, I guess, is that Mel Gibson, when he was a teenager, was called Almost by an older boy as a deep insult, and that inspired this nickname to be given to Jaguar Paw.
I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's your fun fact of the day from me, I guess. Probably the only one that we'll get in this. But I will say this is not like a insightful spoiler thought in any way. But when Jaguar Paw is making his escape, right? He's so basically they have like say 150 yards to corn, and they say, hey, if you get to that point, you're free or whatever, if you get there. And then they send two of them out, and then they're shooting bows and arrows at him. They're throwing javelins at him, trying to hit him. Hot take. I don't think it'd be that hard to escape. I
was going to say they've never seen Game of Thrones because no one in that first group was zigzagging at all.
No, but Jaguar Paw. Actually, it's so wrong of me. I keep accidentally saying Southpaw. But Jaguar Paw he zigzags and he still gets hit. He still gets hit. Sorry if you hear my son yelling. He still gets hit, and I don't think they got that dog in them. I don't think they shot like 10 arrows, and they didn't do it like all at once. It's like 3 people are shooting, and they're loading couple zags. I'm in that and by like seconds later, I'm certain.
Your athleticism is just off the charts.
Yeah, but also, Jaguar. Say that again.
One thing, and I know I feel like everything I've said on this podcast is just negative about this movie, even though I did enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I had read the synopsis of this movie before I went into it, so I knew that like eventually, he would make a daring escape, as the synopsis mentioned. I really thought that was going to be the bulk of the movie. So I'm
like 5 minutes.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm with you guys where like it felt like such a slow burn because I thought we were building up to like him escaping and then making like this epic adventure journey back home. But everything after the scene where he's in that field pit where they're shooting shit at him, from the time he leaves that to the time the movie ends is like it's gone in 5 minutes. Like it feels like it moves so fast. And I think that's another reason why I just hold this film a little lower, is because I fully expected it to be this revenge journey to get back home, when in reality it's like 70% of this movie is like the build up to that. And then maybe the payoff for me just didn't land because I was expecting something longer, something greater. I was expecting, this true epic journey of this guy who just lost his father, having to build up the strength and courage to, 1, kill people who did this to him, and 2, get back to his wife and son. So I think the climax of this movie just felt very rushed, and just very like just gone. It's super fast, as quickly as possible. It felt like the movie was over from the time he escaped.
Yeah, and I will say you can argue, that like him running through the jungle, running from all the Mayan people is, the escape that they're talking about. But also I feel like, in my opinion, if you're this great Mayan city and you're doing all this, you're killing hundreds of people from different tribes, one person getting away isn't going to make me send my entire platoon.
Well, he killed the general's son in the pit.
Oh yeah. When he's escaping, the general's son goes, okay.
Yeah, that's who he stabs. Because at first I was also like, why do they care about one dude? And then I realized, like, when they like said his name, it was
honestly, that to me, I just thought I thought they always, like, when he was saying like sleep my son, I honestly just kind of assumed they'd call everyone my son or my dad, or I don't know. I didn't realize that there was an actual son, but that makes way more sense. So okay, that's fair. He makes his run through the jungle. He gets back to his people. And it's worth noting that that jaguar that I mentioned earlier that looks not very great was chasing after him and then just mauls one of the Mayan people to death. Like it's like a 10-second scene of this jaguar just mauling that
ripping
dude's
his
face off. Yeah. I really can't stress enough. This was a brutal movie. I think it was a different brutal than what we were expecting.
Because like the whole movie was like the infighting between the tribes and the revenge plot, but then like at the very end the Spaniards come in. And basically, like, I get the point of the movie because, like, it starts off with the title screen and says, like, what is it? A great civilization is not conquered from within until it has destroyed itself, or from without until it has destroyed itself from within. So basically, it's just like, and I get it because that's the point of the movie, is basically like, look at all this fighting that they're doing in between themselves, and at the end they're like, oh, it doesn't even matter. Like the Spaniards are gonna come in and make all your infighting seem pointless because the Spaniards come in and conquer all of them. But it felt a little like rushed. I feel like when the Spaniards came in at the end, I feel like I don't know. I feel like it could have just been the story between two tribes, but I get that's like the overall thing Mel Gibson's going for, is just being like showing an entire movie of like, look how silly all this, like these rituals and sacrifices and fighting between these tribes are when nothing ends up mattering because the Spanish just come in and conquer all of them. But just seemed like there was like two different narratives going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think they just kind of brought the Spanish in as like hey, this is where we're going next. Like, obviously, you know, that's just kind of how history.
Apocalypto 2.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't have any more spoiler thoughts necessarily. He makes it back to his family. His wife does his wife have a daughter already and they have a son?
No, they have a son and they have another son.
Oh, they have two sons? Why did I think they had a daughter?
I could have sworn that was a dude that popped out.
I thought it was Guy.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. It does not matter.
Just a war.
But yeah, they have their kids. Great, happy ending. The Spanish are coming. That's kind of, so not necessarily a happy ending, but he gets back to his family. Not a happy ending, but he gets back to his family. That's more the happy part. Any other spoiler thoughts? No. Just wrapping it up. Apocalypto. This is actually a fun fact that I was reading and did not know. Apocalypto was the last R-rated movie released under the Walt Disney banner, and you know what the next one will be?
Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 3. But yeah, you got it.
Wow.
You got my little trivia question. I don't know when that trivia entry was put in. Maybe they've had one since, but I can't remember one. And then, of course, you can't forget that Mel Gibson was constantly talking to his star, Rudy Youngblood, and he said, every time you step, you have to make a ticking noise that happens every 1.25 seconds, symbolizing 7 years on Earth. I thank everyone for coming out today. Thank you, Tyler, for waking up at 5 a.m. to do this review. I'm going to go get breakfast with my family. Thank you very much to Remy for recommending this movie. Thank you to all of our patrons who have been recommending movies and drafts. Always fun to see. We really do appreciate it. Have a great day and follow us on all social medias. Thank you.
Also, we miss you, Seth. Bye.